Welcome, truth seekers and trailblazers, to the Bigfoot, Wildman Boogers show, the podcast where shadows move, legends breathe, and Bigfoot might be closer than you think. Every week, we trek deep into the unknown, diving into the eyewitness accounts, breaking down the evidence, and exploring the mystery behind North America's most elusive cryptid.
We're here to bring you real encounters, all the wild, weird, and wonderful things that go along with Bigfooting, like just getting back from an expedition, Wildman and Boogers.
Yeah.
Whether you're a diehard believer, a backyard camper, or just curious, we're glad you're here.
Before we begin, don't forget to share, like, subscribe. It helps us grow the tribe and bring even more encounters out of the woods and into your ears. Now, go grab your gear, steady your nerves, and let's take that first step into the woods with Mike tonight.
Woo. Welcome.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on with you two. It's just anytime I get a chance to talk about this stuff, I love it.
Right?
Glad to be here.
We're breaking Jennifer in, we're breaking Jennifer into the Bigfoot world. She's getting a very fast education here.
I'm a folklorist, so yeah.
So, well, I tell you what, Mike, tell us a little bit about you and how you got started, how you got into the Bigfoot world.
Well, you go back, I'm 60 years old, so I've been around for a while. And my adult life, I've lived in Cape Girardeau, Missouri for the last, 40 or so years. Okay. But I'm originally from the St. Louis area. And growing up, I was probably 12, and my parents, they really encouraged us to be readers, and they pushed reading. And my dad was a regular connoisseur of the local library to this day. He still is at age 86.
Love a library.
And he brought me home a book that was entitled On the Track of Bigfoot. Okay. And at that point in my life, I'd never heard of Bigfoot. I thought, what the heck is this? Now, we did have that Momo the monster craze in the early 70s. And I at the time, I didn't correlate the two. Yeah. Not until I started reading the book. Then I started saying, hey, that's probably that same thing. There's, but this book was written in the 70s, and, so most of all the information was up until that point. So you had, Jerry Crew, Patterson Gimlin, Albert Ostman's abduction story, those things.
Right.
And I picked an interest. I read the book. I thought, man, these guys don't sound like they're making this stuff up. But I attributed everything at that time to Pacific Northwest or Canada, and just kind of, went on with my life afterwards. Yep. Just go on with your life. But that was always planted in the back of my mind. When you go to playing sports in high school, you go to college, get married, have kids, and you're just doing all these other things that don't have anything to do with Bigfoot.
Right.
And don't care about Bigfoot. And then when they started these cable TV documentaries and shows, Finding Bigfoot, Monster Quest was the one that really, that really fascinated me more than anything. And
yeah, me too. It was my favorite.
And when I started watching those, and it brought back the book. And it's still, I'm thinking, okay, there's something to this stuff. And I remember my sister Becky we would talk about this stuff, and she'd say, "You really don't believe that stuff, do you?" Yeah, I actually kind of do. But that was, And then I guess it's 2016 or 2017, whenever that was, she actually had a sighting. You know, she thought I was nuts for believing it. And then she had a roadside sighting. And trying to figure it out, she sends me this text. I think I saw one of these things you've been talking about. And I'm thinking she's hoaxing me. I said, well, describe to me what you saw. And then, boy, I mean, the description is like, you can't make that up. And I wanted to verify. I wanted to verify that her sighting was legitimate. So I went to the only place I knew to go try to verify it. I went to the BFRO.
Right.
You're submitted all the information and got totally 100% ignored. And I thought, what's up with this? You know,
Right.
And so then I thought, well, I went straight to trying to find how to get a hold of some of these so-called experts that I knew about. Sent some emails. I sent an email out to Cliff Barrickman, and he responded to me. Sounds interesting. I'm going to hook you up with this guy in Missouri that does some work for us, and he'll take it from here. And this guy's name was Brian Woods. He no longer is involved in this stuff, but he was very, very credible. I talked to him on the phone. He talked to my sister, did a whole report, Cliff, and kind of verified everything. And in our conversation, he says to me, he says, Mike, he says, you're interested in this stuff. I don't think we have anybody doing anything in Southeast Missouri. Why don't you get out and start looking around? I said, well, because they're not down here. I assume because they're not down here.
Right.
That's not be wasting my time. And so fast forward, my son was a college athlete, played baseball in college, and he gets done playing in 2018. And he's like, Dad, all we've done all of our lives was sports and baseball and all this stuff. And we got to have something we can do together. And I'm thinking, I never hunted. I want to start hunting. I want to start getting into stuff like that. Would you do it with me? Yeah, sounds great. Because I grew up doing that stuff, but I never did it with him because we were always involved in sports.
Doing sport. Yeah,
and,
sure.
You know, and so I thought, well, we live in a city in Cape Girardeau. We don't really have that much access with the property owners, so we got to find a conservation area to go and practice this art of hunting.
Sure.
So we found a nice 2,300 acre conservation area up North Cape County. I said, this would be a place to go. Let's go check it out. And he was the one, it was like December 19th of 2019. I remember the date. He was one, he went up there to do some squirrel hunting that day. And I didn't go with him because I had something else going on that morning. And when I got home, and he was still at our house at that time, it was right before, that he got married the next year. And he says, I saw he's cleaning some squirrels in the back porches. I saw something up in those woods that you might be interested in. I said, what's that? He said, I saw some footprints. What kind of footprints? He says, big footprints. I said, okay, Bigfoot, like
Big ones.
like my size 15 or your size 15. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I'm talking about Bigfoot footprints. I said, I said, can you find him now? He said, yeah. I said, well, let's go back. Let's get these squirrels clean, get back up there and take a look.
Right.
And I contacted my buddy and he met us up there to go take a look around. And sure enough, we saw a track way, probably about 5 to 6 real clear steps. Left foot, right foot, right foot, toes, 5-toed, 17.5 inches, about 8 wide, about 5 foot between steps. And you can see that very clearly. People ask, well, how come there's only just one footprint? Well, it's not always just one. It wasn't. and usually it's not.
Right.
It might just be one good enough to take that picture or put that cast on.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually put a cast on 2 of those prints, a left and a right foot, and but it was at that point. That I thought they exist and they're here.
Yes,
because there's no other explanation for it. Nobody has feet that big and going to be barefoot in December in Missouri,
right?
And walking around the woods,
Right.
And they're here, So then you want to kind of find some. You don't want to do this. You want to have a new hobby. You don't want to do it alone. My son didn't want to have anything to do with it. He wanted to hunt. He didn't want to
didn't have to have that nonsense, right?
He didn't want to deal with Bigfoot. I didn't want to deal with hunting anymore. I was like, you go hunt, I'll go do Bigfoot.
There you go. There you go.
So you get a couple buddies that have some like interests, and we start. Then the pandemic hit a couple months later. They shut everything down. So we can go to we don't have to work. We're getting paid. We can go to the woods every day.
Yeah.
So I started frequenting that area, and boy, every more evidence, more footprint, all different size. Yep. Hey, these are 14 inches long. These are 16 inches long. These are 18 inches long. They're different ones. Then you started getting shadowed by the watchers, the day watchers, and they probably see the same people coming out all the time, so they get interested in you, and the next thing you know, they'll start reaching out to you a little bit with some whoops or some knocks or things along that nature, and you're like, oh boy, there's one here, there's one over there. Maybe we better leave. And as early on, and then after a few times of that, well, I guess we don't have to leave because they're not showing any aggression toward us. Let's hang around. And so then it comes to going out there at night, building the fire, to eventually camping overnight and getting brave enough to do that. And it just, it's a progression that's opened up a whole new world of, my thing for me, the passion was, how can these things be here in the abundance that they're in? And 99% of the crowd doesn't know about it. And even the crowd that's up there hunting don't know about it. They don't realize that. Right. But they're here, and there's a bunch of them up here, and if there's a bunch of them here, there's a bunch of them, over in Southwest Missouri where you're at, down in Arkansas where you were over the weekend, and all across the country, not just the
up here in Minnesota where I'm at.
Minnesota, and not just the Pacific Northwest. So to me, it's incredible.
Well, I think part of that too is, us as humans, since the cell phone has come out, we walk around with our face stuck in it all the time.
Right.
And if we're not doing that, I mean, even a certain amount of the people that live in the country, when they come home from working, whether it's from the field or wherever, they're in the house, they don't go back outside if they don't have to,
They go in, they turn the TV on. They don't hear what's going on out there. My friend Bill is a perfect example of that. He would drive 60 miles to come over and go out with us. When he had 5 acres that butted up to Mark Twain National Forest.
Oh my
60 miles away from us. He had them on his property. He did not even know it.
Wow.
He would drive 60 miles to come. I got to find somewhere to come research with us. And then after researching with us for a few years, he happened to see one on his property one night. He's like, oh, they were there the whole time.
Yeah.
And he'd get home from work. He'd go in, turn on TV, and ignore what's going on outside.
Yeah.
And start that process over.
So
the perfect example of it. But I have specifically, I've gone to the conservation area during the firearm deer season, and Marianne knows, as a Missourian, the firearm deer season is like a religious holiday in the state of Missouri.
Oh yeah.
I remember. I am from Missouri, so I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
So I've gone up there, not to hunt, just go up there and sit at the one of the parking areas and sit there and observe as the hunters would leave the woods. It's getting about dusk. They've been out in the woods all day long. There might be 15 cars parked there and 15 different hunters out various spots. And the hunter comes out. There's a Bigfoot yell, fires off within probably 75 yards of that gate.
Yeah.
Next hunter comes out, same thing. These hunters are oblivious to what's going on.
Yeah.
They act like something made a noise in the woods. And this happens. And then when the last hunter would come out and leave, same thing. And these guys have counted the number of hunters that are in the woods. And my theory is, okay, when all the others are hearing 1 yell, 2 yells, 3 yells, 4 yells, hey, all the hunters are out of the woods. Now we can go play. We can go roam. Sure. We can go do what we want to do. And they have learned to coexist with the hunters.
Yes.
Without any issue.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and when you talk to hunters, there's so many of them that have been hunting for years, and they finally see one of them and they put it down. They won't ever go back to the woods again.
I talked to a guy recently about that. He hunted for I don't know how many years. In 2016, on that private property, he saw the Sasquatch, and that wasn't even very close with him. It was from a distance, but he saw it. He clearly saw it. He hasn't 9 years. He hasn't hunted.
Yeah, it blows my mind because it's like you all have been out there and been oblivious. They've been around you the whole time, and as soon as you see one of them, you're done. You're out of the woods, and you're not going to have any, no more.
Yeah.
It just cracks me up, But it is what at an early age, we're trained to believe that only certain things exist, and everything has to fit in a box. And people that research Bigfoot or believe in it, they have a little bit different look on things. That everything doesn't fit in that box just perfectly. So.
Well, and of course, the thing I hear, and I'm sure you guys do as well, where are the pictures?
Yeah.
Did you get a picture? Where are the pictures? I'm like,
why have we never found a body?
These guys don't just pose like deer do and let you take their picture.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry.
Well, and I don't know, but when you've have this experience, your brain is just like, it's not functioning right because
you're not thinking logically like, my gosh, I have to.
No. And so looking for a camera or your phone to get a picture is the last thing that's on your mind. And the encounters don't usually last 30 seconds, if that. So you don't have time to grab that. You'd have to be walking around with that stupid thing stuck to your eye the whole time to get a picture. And that's not going to happen. And
there are plenty of credible pictures out there, but
yes,
but like with me, like when I had the good sighting, the face to face, the last thing that crossed my mind was reach into my pocket and pull my phone out because number one, this guy is a whole lot bigger than me. Mm-hmm. He's not being aggressive right now. But what will his reaction be when I point something at it?
Right.
He may run away, and I want the experience. He may charge, and I don't want that experience. Right. So I'm just going to leave that in my pocket, and I'm going to enjoy what time we have to have that experience.
Yes, exactly. So. Exactly. Yeah, and that's that's the whole thing. It's an experience in itself, and getting that picture, that's not going to help anybody understand that experience. No. It is an experience, and it doesn't matter how many times it happens to you. It's always a different kind of experience, when you see these things. Because even if you believe, when you do finally get a good view of one, you're like, whoa, wait, what? Hold on. I mean,
talk yourself out of what you just saw.
Yeah. We're looking for it. And then you your brain still does that. It's like it glitches for a minute. You're like, wait, no, yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm looking for. Yes. So yeah. So yeah, I know my brain does that anyway. It's like,
exactly.
yeah. You can't explain it until somebody has that kind of experience. They won't understand it either, because everything that you think and you think you would do and how you would react, you don't until you're in those kind of situations. You don't know what you would do. Right. You can sit there and say, oh, I'd get my camera out. Okay, well, let's put you in that situation.
Let's see that then.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about that face-to-face. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. And that didn't happen. I started doing this, said December 2019. That didn't happen until December of 2023. And I'd been in the presence. I'd been a lot of, night, they like to just stay out of your sight for the most part. They'll in the tree line or wait the dark or things along those natures. And I had some multiple encounters up until then, maybe a glimpse here or a tree peeker there. I can kind of see, that's one peeking around the tree, but that still wasn't the satisfying, up close and personal type situation. Sure. I got some friends that they've got some property over a couple counties from me, and they've got a little farm going on there, and they started. When they started developing their farm, they noticed they had Sasquatches over there, coming in, helping themselves in the greenhouse, and taking, tomatoes. They like the tomatoes, and things along that nature. Eggs, taking eggs from the poultry. They'd come in, they'd open the poultry gate, go into the poultry pen, take eggs, come out, close the gate back. They wouldn't lose any chickens. But they'd have a portion of eggs gone. These chickens aren't laying many eggs.
Yeah.
And so this guy, he gets out, and they weren't. I didn't know who they were at the time. He gets out and he starts searching around these pages, trying to find some answers. Go to these these Bigfoot pages because they're messing up my farm. I'm trying to get this farm started, homestead type farm, and they're messing up my operation. And well, I was doing a podcast at the time of Understanding Bigfoot. I did about 40 episodes of a podcast, and but he found me, and he saw I wasn't too far away from him, so he reached out to me, and so I went over, took a look, and I asked him. I thought this is a great place for research,
Yeah.
So I asked him if he'd let me do like a year-long gifting program with him on his property. And we did that. So I'd go up away from his areas and put up every couple of weeks, go up there, put apples and peanut butter, different things like that, and share with them.
Sure.
And they'd still, and I explained to him, because they weren't cleaning his stock out, they were taking portions.
Yeah.
So go ahead and share with them. I said because if you try to shut them completely down from what you got, you may have problems.
Yeah.
And problems you don't want to deal with. So they did that, and there was a family. I guess there was a mom and a dad. And a juvenile was probably about 7 foot tall, maybe 6-7 foot tall, and a younger kid, and maybe an old grandpa or an uncle or something like that. And he apparently had a bad attitude, according to them, and they had issues with him. But the others, were kind of cool. And so I would go up there and we'd check the gifting, and I'd never seen them, but they would leave these little glyphs by that gifting bucket.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I thought it was kind of cool. that they're leaving, and they're pretty. They would take the jar of peanut butter back to wherever they holed up at, and they'd bring an empty jar of peanut butter back to the bucket, fill it back up. And, so this went on, like I said, we did a year-long project, and a couple of times, I camped out there just to maybe I'd see them and didn't. Of course, I go to sleep. They may come by, but and then finally, I guess it's December of 23. We're going to wind down because they got really busy with their farm, doing farmers market stuff and stuff like that. And their business just really took off, and so they didn't have a lot of time to keep playing with me and stuff like that. So December, I was filling the bucket up, and I had the husband, the wife, and their young adult son were up there with me. And she was over to the left of me looking up in the woods, and she started talking to, what was up there.
Yeah.
And I looked over at her. I said, is that them? Are they up there? She goes, yeah. She says, come on over here. She goes, there's an adult and there's two young ones. And so I walked over there, and she just, she says, the young ones went into hiding, but that adult's he's sitting right. He's on his all fours, about 30 yards up into the woods. And the thing is, she says, see him? I said, no. I said, I'm not seeing him.
Right.
Because they blend in so well.
Exactly.
And I'm like, she says, see those two trees up there? Yeah. Focus on the cone-shaped head between the two trees. And then when I did that, oh my goodness, he's there. He's on his all fours. He's huge. The head and the shoulders were 3 times of me, at least.
Wow. Yeah.
And he got that little sway going with him, back and forth. And through my podcasting, I had a guy told me, he goes, if they're swaying at you, sway with them. So I said, well, I'll sway with him a little bit. So I swayed a little bit with him.
Yeah.
and so I just started talking to him. Hey, I really enjoyed, treating your family to this stuff, and I appreciate you. It just said some nice things to it. I mean, this went off probably about 15 seconds, and the last thing he did is he gave me a head nod. He gave me a head nod, turned around on all fours the whole time, and just meandered up into the woods. And within about 3 steps, I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
But for 15 seconds, and I mean, I'm 6'5", and we were looking eye to eye, and he was on his all fours. So I imagine if he stood up, he'd been every bit of 10 foot tall. Maybe a little more than that, but that was, and it was. Now, I had worked for 4 years to get that. So for me, it wasn't a shock. It wasn't a scare me to death type situation.
Right.
I felt comfortable because that family was there and they interacted with them on a regular basis. So it wasn't like I was, I felt safe and just had just one of those moments like this is surreal. And,
right.
And and then he left, and I thought so cool.
Yeah.
For him to acknowledge that, and then the head nod. To me, the head nod was like he gave me the head as a communication device that's like, I'm okay with you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool. And so that was the that was the best stuff as far as face to face. Now, if I were that hunter in the woods and did not give the thought to their existence of any way, shape, form, or another, and he came to my tree stand, I'd, I'd probably been scared out of my wits too.
Oh, sure.
But
Right,
but we
right.
had, but I had worked up to that point for 4 years and so forth, and I thought, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and even when we have things happen to us, we're out there actively doing it, but still it sometimes surprises you, you
Yeah,
know. And it's like we're out there, we're active in what we're doing. It shouldn't, but it does. And when you get like the tree knocks or the whoops or whatever, I mean, we all just stop, we're like a bunch of little kids, looking at,
Did you hear that?
yeah, type thing, it's always,
I and the thing that really, I mean, sometimes you're sitting out there at night and it might be dead quiet for 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden he's real close and he gives out a loud yell. and he's pretty darn close,
yeah,
within 30 or 40 yards, and you're like, it's been so dead quiet for 30 minutes, and you're right there, and you just give us a howler like that, and it still
Yeah.
sends those goosebumps and
oh yeah,
raises the hair on you. And it's,
mhm. It
you know,
does.
we
Yep.
had a guy out there, and he's like kind of on the fence, interested, and and we're out there and sitting out there, and the fire's going, and it's dark, and I'm not, then he hears that, and he's like, how come nobody's running to their trucks? Because we don't have to run to the truck.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm thinking I should be running to my truck right now. How come you guys aren't running to your truck?
Yeah.
Right.
Because this is what we do.
Right. Yeah.
They aren't going to hurt us.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's what you're out there for,
Yeah.
It, like I said, it does surprise you sometimes or
Yeah.
catches you off,
Yeah.
We've noticed too, sometimes when you roll into an area, when you got to have those recorders going before you ever get out of the vehicle, because sometimes there's a knock as soon as you open the door.
As soon as you open the door, they're going to let people know.
Yeah.
They're going to
That you're there,
their people know that you're
Yep.
there.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and sometimes I wonder if they're kind of also letting us know that they're there as well.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
Yep. I've wondered that too before,
And-
it's like, okay, I'm out here, leave me alone, this way, I'm here, just leave me alone.
and-
Exactly.
But we had I guess it was just earlier this month, Labor Day weekend, and did some camping with Grizzly Chris. Marianne came on our program a month or two ago,
Uh-huh.
and Mary and her kids were with us, and we were doing some camping in the same area, the North Cape County area.
Okay.
And Grizzly had the ridge above the campground, and I told him that there's a day watcher that stays on that ridge during the day, because we've heard him and we've heard him and we've heard him.
Mhm.
And Grizzly had some binoculars, and I had never done this before, but because you look up in all you see is the leaves and the tree, you don't see anything anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he looked in the gaps,
Mhm.
looking in the gaps of the leaf, like the little gaps where it's just
sure.
dark. Well, with the binoculars, there are two of them up there looking in those gaps, and you can see their faces plain as day.
Wow.
And he, and I took a look with the binoculars, and I saw their faces plain as day as well. Now, a cell phone picture was snapped, but that you just can't see it plain as day with the cell phone picture, because it doesn't have the but with we saw them, where there's two of them probably about 20 feet apart in little gaps, and you can see those faces plain as day up there, and that was, I was like, I need to start bringing my binoculars out just to scan that, because just to get that
Well, and
glimpse.
describe, so what did their faces look like?
Oh, in a lot of ways, and they were still, the heads weren't as conical as the one I saw over, at the people's farm, but the head's still rounded, and they had the forehead, came down to that little bridge thing, and the deep set eyes,
The overbrow.
the deep set eyes, the nose, the mouth, and the hair kind of come up, and then the actual face itself didn't have as much hair on it. And it really kind of resembled, I know a lot of people think this is hoax, but that picture, that Todd Standing thing, where they show that picture, just looking, if you know what I'm talking about. It kind of resembled that to an extent. Both of them did, to an extent.
Yeah.
But they had a more that ridge on the forehead was more noticeable than the other. But yeah, you could clearly see that those are two Sasquatches up there.
Okay.
And they're just watching us, checking us out. So
yeah, just seeing what you're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I think that sometimes that they do that, whether they're watching to make sure we don't get too close, or if they're just watching because they find us entertaining because we do things differently than they do.
We had a lot going on. You had a couple kids, in the camp, a lot of activity going on. And I think that that's a purge, that there's at least one up there most times, because people will go down that gravel road. They'll go down to the boat ramp, and then there's a creek that flows into the Mississippi River, and they'll fish that. And I think they're just, one of the things, keepers of the forest or so. They got, they're not trying to harass fishermen, or they're not trying to they're just making sure, doing their jobs, doing what their elders are asking them to do.
Right.
And so, and they were checking us out, and we were able to see them through the binoculars, and then had some nice nighttime activity too as well. But
okay,
that you might, I'm not gonna, because I was lazy and sitting at the camp, but Grizzly's fiance Mary was out and about and got some good stuff. She might be one you'd want to have. She'd come on, talk about that stuff, and share the footage that she has and everything. That's incredible. So
Cool. That's good. Yeah, that's interesting. So let me ask you this, so your experiences that you guys have had, they've always been pretty, easygoing, laid back. They're not confrontational type things. What do you think?
I've never had an aggressive encounter with them.
Okay. What do you think's going on when people do?
Well, because some of the hunters I've talked to some of the hunters up there that have had potentially aggressive encounters. And I'm thinking that it's how the individual reacts to them, because you hear so many people, and I talk to so many people, I'm just telling you right now, if I ever run across one of those things, I'm shooting it.
Yeah.
That may not be a good idea.
Yeah.
And
the aggression is they're matching their energy.
I think if people respond to their presence aggressively, they're liable to.
They're going to get aggression back. Yeah.
One or two things is going to happen. The Sasquatch will either just leave the area, or there could be some aggression back. So
that's kind of how we think about it too. If you go out there and you're not aggressive, you're not threatening, you're not causing a problem, your interaction shouldn't be that way. But it always makes me wonder, the ones that do have those aggressive, it's like, were you being that way? Did you do something you shouldn't have done? Because if they're just out there minding their own business, they're more than likely not going to have an aggressive encounter.
we had a guy with us, and he's a good friend, and we come across a little like one of those like TP tree structures, and he starts going to tear it down. I said, "Don't tear that down."
Right.
I said, "Don't tear that down."
Why would you do that?
I said, "You really want to just upset them? Make them mad like that?
Yeah.
How are they going to respond? I don't know how they're going to just leave it."
Right.
But
yeah.
And some people say, well, they'll get aggressive with guns. Not necessarily, because they share those woods with hunters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They know what that does.
And we had that situation I was telling you about with Mary. Curtis, can't pronounce his last name. Curtis was a regular watcher of our Bigfoot outlaw, and he was in from Ohio camping with us. Curtis had his pistol on his side when they went up to that ridge area at night in the dark. And our discovery was he was within 10 feet of a juvenile and an adult Sasquatch with armed, and they did not get aggressive with him.
Right.
Because they knew what his intentions were. His intentions were not to use that on them. And they were within 10 feet of each other. And this is, interesting story. As they're going out and just kind of, meandering around Curtis and Mary's 7-year-old son, they all of a sudden just get swarmed by moths.
Oh, wow.
And these, they're these moths, and this is where'd they come from? And as Mary's got her phone and she's videoing and trying to get all this, and as soon as they leave the area, and then the moths don't follow them, they just stay,
stay right there.
But it's during that time, her 7-year-old son says, I see something over there. I see something over there. And they were kind of blowing him off for a minute. No, seriously. What do you, because I think there's a Bigfoot over there. And anyways, in shining the video, when you're just looking at the video, you don't see it. But then you kind of get, as we were going back at camp looking at that, and you got to get one, hey, wait a minute, back that up. And then you get one still frame where the lighting is just right for the moment, and you see this juvenile and adult Bigfoot standing right there.
Wow.
But there's no aggression.
Yeah.
And did the Sasquatch have something to do with the moths for the diversion? I don't know. I can't explain that.
Right.
There's a diversion with the moths.
Mm-hmm.
It gets their mind off. Hey, let's just leave the area. But the whole time Curtis had his gun with him, there's no, so that's not necessarily a deal breaker.
No, I don't think it is either. I know a gentleman that he carries it because he did that for his, that was his career, and he just still does it. And before he ever steps into the woods, he'll say, "This is not for you. This is my protection against this or that." I mean, he talks to him. But he's also part Cherokee, he has that whole native, and
Richard Taylor. You're talking about Richard Taylor.
Yeah, I'm talking about Richard. Yeah, exactly.
But and that's now let me ask you this, because you talk about him being part Cherokee and where he goes in Oklahoma, but like in southeast Missouri, it was the Shawnee, the Osage Indians. The Cherokees were they just passed through.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if the different areas, if it's tribal, like the Sasquatch in that area, associated more with maybe the Shawnee dialect, or
and you're probably right, because he'll do that sometimes. He'll throw a little bit out there, greetings to him, things like that. Now, I think it was in, I don't know for sure. I think he was in Oklahoma. And one time, it's either Oklahoma or Kentucky. he kept asking its name in Cherokee,
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And basically, after I think he'd ask about 3 times,
He said,
and
no.
it replied back, and it was something to the effect of like gluk or something like that, which meant no. It wasn't going to tell him his name.
Oh,
You know, and
okay.
he was like,
Right.
"Oh,
Like,
okay."
Be that way then, right?
Right, right. So, but he said, but it did respond, you know,
Yeah,
in the Cherokee dialect. So, you know, that was kind of interesting, you know. So, but yeah, Richard has a radar about him. You know,
Yeah,
he knows where they're at. So that always makes it interesting when you go with somebody like that.
yeah.
Right.
He's times I've done a few podcasts with him, been on a few of the same ones with him and stuff like that. He's an incredible individual.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was with us this weekend, and yeah, he's pretty funny. He'll be looking, and he had some, you know, we had an interesting weekend. We're gonna do a show on it, but you know, he'll hone in on them. He knows the areas, you know, to go look for things, and not every time, but a lot of the time he comes up with something. So, you know, he's always a wealth of knowledge to learn from, and just a kind person all the way around too, you know. So that's it. But so Mike, if you guys got anything going on, you want to talk about your podcast, anything like that?
Bigfoot Outlaw with Grizzly Chris and myself on Wednesday nights on Bigfoot Outlaw. We go live at 8:00, but I don't have anything really. Big weekend, Labor Day weekend. I get very busy with the job too. I got a job that pays the bills, and that keeps me hopping. But
right,
I want to share, because we had a situation. I work at a high school, and I'm an athletic director and teach a few classes, and do a little coaching, drive a school bus, do whatever they need me to do at that high school. But guess it was about a year and a half ago. One of our senior female students, she's getting ready to graduate valedictorian of the high school, and she approached me and she says, some of us want you to do something for us before we graduate.
Oh.
I said, well, what's that? She said, take us out to the woods and show us what you know about this stuff. We want to believe you.
Oh wow.
And I thought, wait, you taking high school girls to the woods, you got to be careful how you do that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, okay. I said, we got to do it right. So I said, you gather me up about 10 kids that would want to do this. And the school sponsored me to take them out on a field trip.
Oh wow. Okay.
I put them on a school bus, and I drove the school bus up there to the conservation area. That now there's some other places I could have taken them, but I know I know where the stuff's at here. And they want to see evidence. So we took them out. I mean, it's the middle of the day. You know, we get up there in the morning, you know, about 9:00, and parked the bus, and I brought some casting material with me. I said, if we find something, we want to, you know. So as we started hiking with the kids, and I mean, we weren't 50. We parked that bus up there at that boat ramp. We weren't 50 yards off the ramp. I saw the first print of the day.
Wow.
So I gathered them around. You know, it wasn't an obvious. It wasn't just a stick out like a sore thumb print, right? Most of them are not like that. And so I explained to them. I said, "This is why this is a print." I said, "Look at this and check this out. Put your hands down there, run it across the soil, feel the toe area." You know, and it was about 16 inches long, and they were like. So I told them. I said, "Now," I said, if this size, if there's a print here, there's got to be one up ahead of it. There's got to be one behind it. There's got to be. I said, so you want to look at a progression. I said, 4 to 5 feet or something like that. And then they could see where there may not have been the impression print, but they could see where the step was made.
Yeah.
And then so you get to where all of a sudden, okay, they build a pattern of a trackway, and you teach them that, and then you show them that, and then so these kids kind of got off in pairs. They went and started looking for their own, and they started finding them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really neat. These kids like, hey, Mr. Scott, come up and take a look at this. What do you think? Hey, come up and take a look at this. What do you think? And this, we're going, and we're, and of course, I took them to a place where I know where they walk. And
right.
In springtime, we had, plenty of rains. So anyway, they just kind of took off up ahead of me, and, just like it's like kids at an Easter egg hunt. These high school kids.
On what to look for, and they're gone.
Right,
finding
exactly.
these footprints, and we found probably 6 different size footprints.
Wow.
That day. So what's the educational lesson? There's a family up here. There's a clan. There's a breeding population.
There's a community.
A community, and then finally we got to just a perfect print to cast, and so we mixed up casting material. We cast it as about a 17-inch print and about 9 wide, and so we got a cast out of it, and just made their day, and it made them believers.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I told them, I said, we're not gonna. I said, to really have a chance to see or really hear anything, we got to be out here at night. I said, this will get you. I said, this will get you started. If you've got interest in it, then
right.
But I will show you evidence. And that's what we did. So that was just an incredible experience to be able to do that and show these kids that evidence and teach them that. And it's just something.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you got to get the
next generation.
Exactly. You got to get the next generation interested in it, so that it continues on. Exactly. Well, Mike, we're almost at that hour point. So we appreciate you coming on with us and sharing your stories. Those were great. And we're going to have to get together and go out in the woods at some point.
We do need to do that. And we're just a few hours away by drive.
Yep.
I want to do one quick shameless plug that I don't gain financially from this one bit, but I've got a book here. It's called Sasquatch America by Tom Cantrell.
Okay.
And this is Tom's latest book, probably going to be his last book. His health is starting to fail him. It's his 16th book, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He had a bunch of us put our stories in here.
Oh,
and
okay.
I've
Cool.
got my story is in this book. I contributed a chapter. Richard Taylor's contributed a chapter to it. And a lot of people. He asked me to write the foreword to the book. I wrote the foreword to it. And it's available on Amazon or at Tom Cantrell's website, tomcantrell.com. So if you're
check that out.
If you're interested in what about 25 different people, what their real life experiences were compiled in one book, then that's something you might want to check about getting it. So
absolutely.
Wonderful.
We will go check that out. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, tribe. That's all for this episode of Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers Show. Thank you for wandering the woods of Missouri with us today.
If you enjoyed today's encounter and want to keep these legends alive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep track of the wild and legendary encounters that make Missouri so special.
We'll be back soon with more mysteries, more encounters, and maybe even a few surprises hiding in the shadows. Until then, keep your boots muddy, your eyes on the tree line, and remember, show me your Bigfoot.